I
There is a wrench over there.
Good evening, everybody. It is so good to be here with you all at First Lutheran Church. My name is Jacob Spilker, and I am the Vice President of Advancement and Alumni Engagement at Bethany College. And I want to welcome you on behalf of First Lutheran, of Bethany College, of the ELCA Foundation, and we are just happy to spend this evening with you. Earlier this year, I was with Brenda Meyer and Pastor Bob Dealey and Pastor Jenny at one of my favorite spots here in town, the Burger Stand, and eating sweet potato fries and that delicious marshmallow sauce. And out of that, this whole evening was born. So it is going to be a fun night as we celebrate singing and the future of education in our church. As we get ready to move on through the night, I will soon be welcoming up the Bethany College Choir. But as they do, I want to let you know of a couple opportunities to support them. After you fall in love with what you are about to hear, they are preparing to leave on a European choir tour and are in need of companions. So if you are interested in what does it look like to be a college choir student, you too could have that experience. We would love for you to join. And as they get ready for that, they have a sing-a-thon coming up in November where they will be singing hymns for 12 straight hours, and you have the opportunity to sponsor a hymn or sponsor an hour of singing to help them all go to Europe. What an awesome thing we can do together for our choir. And with that, I want to welcome up our Opera Scenes class under the direction of Leslie Mangrum, and please enjoy.
Thank thank you so much for having us. We're excited to be here. So Dr. Lucas, you may not know, is actually on sabbatical this semester. He has been touring across Europe. He's visited Sweden and Dublin, and he's been in London, and now I believe he is in Germany. So he's had quite a wonderful sabbatical. He actually was able to, he was in London during the Queen's passing, was actually able to go into the chapel there. So he is having a very great time, and he is scoping out different venues and things for the choir to do while they are on tour. While he is gone, we were able to come step in and do this performance. So this class is our opera scenes class, and I'd say most of these students are part of the choir. We have a couple of seniors who will be graduating and won't be going on the tour, but raise your hand if you're going on the tour. Yeah, so as you can see, most of these kiddos will be doing that, and they would love to have you come along with them. It's going to be a great trip. So this class is working on a show meant to be an introduction to opera. So most of these tunes will sound familiar to you, and they're going to, next month, take this show out on the road and perform it for some of the high schools over in the Salina area, Hayes, Russell. So this is a great way for us to both recruit and educate young people about what opera is. So this is a little sneak peek into what our show is going to be, and that is called Opera in a Box. So thank you so much.
In Act 1 of Verdi's La Traviata, Alfredo and Violetta sing about enjoying life and love. Outside of the tobacco factory, Carmen sings an ariette about the untamable nature of love as French soldiers gather around in the first act of Bizet's masterpiece.
Thank you.
of the opera depicts the tale of a mysterious spirit that haunts the opera house and lures Christine into his lair.
That voice which calls to me.
While we are all in the same space yet tonight, I would like to invite all alumni up front so we can get into a Bethany College alumni picture together.
Student market, Quincy, when I first came to town.
On three, no car stove on. And I'm gonna do a video while he takes the picture. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
That's just fun. What'd you say? Thank you, everybody on the south side.
So let's see.
Seven.
Come back at 7:30. We have a 10-minute dinner session.
Don't leave, stay. Good stuff coming up.
And there's dessert following.
And dessert, right? Great.
Okay. Is this thing working? Can y'all hear me? Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Well, for those of you that can't necessarily see the screen, if you wanna, I encourage you to move forward. If not, it will be delivered, and it will also be online and recorded, so you'll see it either way. But if you want to see it now, just come on up. Excuse me.
Single season.
Very nice, it was. Did he not?
Okay. I'm going to give about 2 more minutes here, and then we're going to get going. I think everybody that's going is here. And I'm a walker, so is it okay if I walk left to right? You're saying good. Excellent. Well, you know what? Y'all are being so patient. Why don't we just go ahead and get started? My name is Stephen Phelps, and I'm the Regional Gift Planner for the Central States Synod of the ELCA and Arkansas, Oklahoma. And so I have Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma. Some of you have met me before here at First. Maybe some of you haven't. I've been working for the foundation since 2014. Your ELCA Foundation is a separately incorporated ministry of the ELCA as of 2018. We started the process back in actually 2015. Took us a couple of years to get it going. But by 2018, we were a separately incorporated ministry. So like Mission Investment Fund, Women of the ELCA, Lutheran Men in Mission, Portico, Benefit Services, the ELCA Credit Union. We are a separate financial entity. We have our own board, we have our own executive director, and we are here to help you. Like I said, I've been working for the foundation since 2014. I've been doing not-for-profit work for nearly 40 years. My expertise is in estate planning. I am a CFRE, which is a Certified Fundraising Executive, and my emphasis is in helping folks, congregations, and individuals like you in ministries of the ELCA, like Bethany, Camp Tomashinga, Hollis Renewal Center, our synod, both here in Central States and in Arkansas, Oklahoma, do the work of the church by helping folks set up their estate plans and do giving here in the now. The foundation is really here to be your partner in doing all of these things. So when this little event got together, as you heard earlier from Jacob, we thought that it might be nice to add in a little bit about estate planning and why it's so important. I'm a true believer in estate planning, and during the next 40 or so minutes, I hope that you will come to understand, if you don't already, which I'm sure many of you do, the importance of estate planning and why it's so important not to procrastinate. That's one of the biggest pitfalls that many folks do when it comes to estate planning. Oh, I'll get to it next week. Oh, I'll get to it next month. I'll get to it next year. Well, for some of those folks, unfortunately, that really had a hard time this past week with Hurricane Ian in Florida, and I hope that many of those who unfortunately perished during that event had their wills and their estate plans in place. My guess is many did not. So what happens? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about probate. Probate has good things that happen with probate. Probate also has very many bad things that can happen with probate. But we all can avoid probate by having an estate plan in place. So my title of my little presentation here is What's Missing from Your Estate Plan? And I think one of the first things that people think that's missing is a will. So estate plan is really about sharing wealth. Sharing wealth through relationships, sharing wealth through values, and sharing wealth through resources. So what is estate planning? If you have possessions, you have an estate. These possessions can be your bank account, your stock account, your 401k, real estate, any type of business holdings that you might have, anything that has value, both monetary and sentimental for that reason, because a lot of our possessions do have value, that's an estate. We plan an estate to do three things. First and foremost, we want to take care of our families and our loved ones. Second, we want to take care of those who maybe can't take care of themselves. And most importantly, thirdly, we want to do the work that Christ has called us to do as Lutherans and as Christians on this planet. We are bestowed many gifts while we're here on earth. And one of the last and most important things that we can do is leave a legacy in our passing, both for our family and our loved ones, but more importantly, or just as equally, for the missions, the churches, the charities that mean the most to you. So we're going to talk about how we can do that. A lot of the times we have family challenges. As you can see, we've got money, we got cars, we got, I don't know what I'm talking about. We sometimes erase things, we make changes. And then unfortunately, many times, we feud. And you wouldn't think that that would happen in a family, but I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in my own family. I've seen it happen the day of the funeral. When are you writing the check? Now, emotions run high, but we don't have to be there. in that place because we can take time now to make a plan that avoids all of that and lets our loved ones and our family members and our friends and our charities and our missions and our congregations all know what we intend to do and what we intend to have done when we leave this earth. The great thing about an estate plan is it's changeable, it's flexible, it can grow, it can expand, or it can retract based on what your needs are and what the needs of your family and the missions that you want to support are. So some statistics on personal inheritance. It takes the average recipient of an inheritance 19 days until they buy a car. So think about that in your own family. If you left a grandchild or your son or daughter or a nephew or niece $250,000, guess what the first thing they're going to go and do? They're going to buy a car. It's really funny how that works out, but it's true. Next one's a boat. 3 years, 33% of heirs will have negative savings. A third, negative savings. 5 years, the average inheritance is gone. Think about that. What's probably your largest asset next to your real estate? Anyone want to take a guess? You can talk. It's your IRA, your 401k, 403b. That's usually the next biggest asset, or usually sometimes the biggest asset, depending upon what type of house you have, or if you have real estate. That's going to be the largest asset. There are tax implications there, but $250,000, $500,000, $1 million gone in 5 years? Ouch. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation. 90% of wealthy families have lost their wealth by the third generation. 78% feel that the next generation is not financially responsible enough to handle the inheritance. Think about your own family for a second. Does that hold true? 64% admit they have disclosed little to nothing about their wealth to their children. If the unthinkable happened today, and the usual unthinkable is some type of calamity, like a hurricane, or motor vehicle accident that takes family members all in one time, spouses together. That's the biggest challenge a lot of the times to families. And when both are gone, who's there to take care of what's left? That's why it's so important to have an estate plan, to name a trustee, to name an executor, to have a trust, to have a will, to have beneficiary designations. Any questions about these? Any of your own experiences? Okay. Charitable challenges. I need my glasses. Where'd they go? Oh, they're in my pocket. You ever get your, going around and you're looking for your glasses, wondering where they are? I do this all the time. It's like, where are my glasses? Sometimes they're on top of my head. As I get older, my eyes are leaving me. 68% of American adults have not yet created a will. And within our own Lutheran community, 60% of Lutherans self-admit that they currently do not have a will. But planning is a smart choice for everyone, regardless of the size of your estate. So many people think that, well, you know what, my estate isn't big enough, I don't need a will. That is so not true. And what happens if you die intestate without a will? Who decides? Probate. That means the state of Kansas. Do you really want, if you live here in Kansas, if you live here in Topeka or Salina or Kansas City or Lindsborg, do you really want the state, the county seat of Sedgwick County deciding what happens with your estate? What happens with your kids? I mean, really, they can go quite far in probate. We don't want that And I'm here to help you avoid that. So, there are 6 really good pieces to an estate plan. Your will, a trust, life insurance policies, retirement plans, 401ks, 403bs, KIOs, durable power of attorney for finances, and a living will. Especially the living will. Why is that so important? Because if you become incapacitated, you want to be sure that there is someone there that has the power not only to make healthcare decisions, to withdraw or withhold possibly life-saving if you wish it or don't wish it. You're not able to answer. You want that in place. And you're coming to tell me something. Uh-oh. Did we lose that one? Okay. I don't know either. Strange. Well, we'll keep going on while he works with that. So charitable challenges, I see the light, but no picture. I don't think it's me. I'm up. There it is. Maybe. Don't you love technology? It works, and then all of a sudden it decides not to. So while he's mixing with that, having that will in place is very important because, again, it's your last will and testament, right? It's like a narrative of your life. When you were not here, you can go back and tell everybody this is what you want done. The money isn't just going to blow away, nor is it going to be kept under the mattress for safekeeping. You had ideas for that money. You wanted something done with that asset or those assets. That's a charitable challenge. Having that in place takes that challenge away. 3 common methods exist by which your assets are transferred to your heirs after death. They're beneficiary designation, joint ownership with rights of survivorship, and a will or trust. Now, we have to remember, however, wills are probated. Beneficiary designations are not. So if you don't have a will currently in place, you can have a kind of silent stealth estate plan. Don't need an attorney to set it up. Don't need a financial planner to set it up. I'm more than happy to help you set it up. It's called beneficiary designation. Every asset that you own, you can beneficiarily designate. Your car, your boat, your house, your real estate, your bank account, your 401k, your 403b, your life insurance. Bypasses probate. No matter what it says in the will, you could say in the will, my insurance policy is going to my Aunt Mary. But on the beneficiary designation, you said it's going to Uncle Sam. Where's it going, folks? It's going to Uncle Sam. And I don't mean the government, I mean Uncle Sam. And that's where it's going to go. So bear that in mind about will and beneficiary designation. Now, most of the time what we want is the will and all your other stuff to match up, obviously. And if you have a trust, then we want what's called a pour-over will, so that the will's talking about the trust is mentioning the will, and everything comes out all okay in the end. What's great about it, again, is it's revocable, unless you've set up an irrevocable trust. That's a different thing that we could get into by question and answer later. I won't bother you with it here. But trusts are an important way to also protect assets, and we'll talk a little bit more about trusts at the end of this presentation. Sometimes we hit a detour. Sometimes things happen that we don't plan for. An illness, a disaster, an accident. Beneficiary designations takes that out of play. The detour won't happen because you've already made that decision. It's there. Now, what's great about beneficiary designations, like with my Portico, my 403b through the ELCA, which is one of my largest assets, I could get on Portico.com every day if I want to and change my beneficiary designations. Portico probably wouldn't like me to do that, but I could. And what's great about it is if you have access to the internet, or even if you don't, you can call and get a form delivered to you. You can make sure that those things are handled. It's easy, it's free, and it's 100% guaranteed. If that asset exists, it's going to go to the person on that beneficiary designation. So let's have a little quiz. We're talking about families and assets, right? So they've got a home that's worth $300,000. They own it outright. They have a retirement account, $750,000. Again, biggest asset. Bank accounts, $10,000. Life insurance, $100,000. So they got $1,160,000. The will directs 10% to First Lutheran Church. And that's 10% of this total. How much goes to First Lutheran? I'm sorry? We don't know. Good answer. Have you seen my presentation before? No? Okay. Right answer. We don't know. Because what we don't know here is, did they take one of these assets up here and beneficiarily designated it? Because you can have something mentioned in your will. I currently have a gift in my will that's for a charity that I no longer support, and I haven't gone and changed it yet. Doesn't matter. It's an unfunded bequest. Why? I have no asset to fund that total. The only way that they could get that money is if my executor finds something within my estate that's not beneficiary designated. It would probably be the contents of my house that could total that. They could potentially get it that way because it's a 20% gift of my estate at that time when I did it. But right now it's unfunded. But, yes, it could be $116,000 or it could be zero. So how, again, do these will and estate distribution happen? By contract, beneficiary designation, by law, probate, by trust. You set up a trust, whether it's revocable, living trust, remainder trust, unit trust, lead trust, or by the will. And notice we got will all the way down at the bottom. It's going to go to probate first. And everybody can make a claim against a will. Your MasterCard, Visa, the state if you owe taxes. Everybody gets in line. That's what's going to happen in probate first, is they're going to put it out there and let everybody make their claim against the estate. However, if you've beneficiarily designated it by contract or by trust, they cannot get it. Now, they can go and claim against the estate, and it's up to the court to determine whether or not it's valid for you to have that beneficiary designation, but 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. Does this all make sense to you? I've said a lot here in the last 15 minutes about wills and trusts and beneficiary designations. But as the sign says, we want to keep it right. We want to keep it to where you want it to be. That's the importance of meeting with your financial professionals, your attorney, your financial planner, your CPA if you have one, and a gift planner like myself. The foundation, we are confidential, we are free, there is no obligation. I'm here to listen and to help guide. I'm here to help you find the best resources that you have at your disposal to make the best informed choices of where your estate will go when you go to God. Our gift planning process is kind of clear and simple, actually. We start out with a discovery. And back on the back table, we've gotten some new resources for the ELCA Foundation. We've been working very, very, very hard on it. Some of you might remember, oops, that's not big enough table. Some of you might remember we used to have our will and trust workbook. I'm just going to put those down there. We have renamed it. It's now the record book. And I brought some advanced copies. Now, we're going to get some really cool new ones of these printed up. But this is a nearly 30-page document where you can put every asset that you have, every desire that you hope, every dream that you have about what you want done with your estate in this book. And then you can take it to your attorney, you can take it to your financial planner, you can give it to your family and let them know, this is what we have, this is where it's at, this is how it's designated, this is how it's going to pass. I would love for all of you, and I might have enough for each of you, not each of you, but each family unit to get one today. If not, you can download it from www.elcafoundation.org. And I'll have that back in the back for you to go there. You can get it for free. We also have another one that you saw me with the paper shuffling, our lesson book. Our new lesson book's a 14-page document that talks about everything that I'm talking here in this presentation, just in a narrative form. It's an actually fun read. I read it again this afternoon because it's brand new. We just got it last week. So unfortunately, I don't have copies of that one with me to give to you today. But what I'm kind of talking about here is what it's talking about in the lesson book. So we start out with a discovery. If I was to sit down with you, I'm going to listen to your relationships, your values, your resources. What are your goals? Then we're going to talk about giving options. Review of your current plan if you have one, which I hope most of you do. Discussion of potential options. What are the options? Is it a trust good for you? Is a trust not good for you? Is beneficiary designation the best? Do we want a will? Of course, you should have a will. But what do we want the will to say? And as a side note, I know a lot of people talk about, you can get online and do your own will. I would highly recommend you not do that. And the reason is I'm not an attorney. Are there any attorneys in the room? Okay, there we go. So he smiled. I don't know. I've been watching. I was thinking maybe he didn't say that right. So I'm always watching. So I always ask. So now I know. But I think he would agree with me, the barrister would, that really you want an attorney to do that up because, number one, you want to make sure it's right. We want to make sure that it's executed properly, meaning people witness it when you signed it. We want to make sure that it wasn't signed under duress. We want to be sure that that will is going to hold up in probate. And more importantly, we want that language, that will, and when you've all read your wills, you know it's kind of really Latin speak in English. We want it to say that because that's very important. So find a good attorney. They're not expensive to do a simple I love you will. It's not hard to do. And then finally, gift implementation. We would talk about that. What's the next steps? What other professionals need to be at the table? And communication with your family. That is key. We're going to talk about that in a second. Your goals during the gift planning process. How much do you want to give to your family, and when do you want them to receive it? The Oracle in Omaha, we all know who he is. He once famously said he wanted to leave enough of his estate for his kids to do something, but not too much that they wouldn't do anything. So think about that. How much is too much? How much is enough? Does your son or daughter who is a doctor and has a great job, their kids are all doing fine, do they really need $1 million? Your heart may say yes, but the facts may say no. There may be missions that you are dearly in love with, Lutheran Disaster Response, this congregation, Bethany if you're an alum, that need it just as bad. That's not to say that we're taking away from our family. No. We're making good decisions with the assets that the Lord has given us. Oh, sorry, went too fast. How much do you want to give to charity, and when do you want them to receive it? Now, that's another good point. Do you want them to receive it all in one fell swoop? There's nothing wrong with that with a charity. Let's not talk about kids for a second. We'll come back to that. But a charity, they can get it all at once, or do you want to endow it and give it out over time? I love endowments. I didn't used to. When I was a younger man, first working at a charity that helped individuals with challenges and physical, mental challenges, I wanted everything to come in cash to program because we needed the money to go out and buy staff and pay staff and do services. Short-sighted, Stephen. I should have been doing both. We should have been endowing that charity's future with an endowment, at the same time getting those gifts like here in the collection plate, while at the same time I know that this congregation also has an endowment. We can do both. Does reality match what you want? We talked about that a little bit earlier. Does the assets match up to what you want to have done? But we can make that work, no matter what the size of the estate. Is this the best plan to meet your goals? Is it a trust? Is it a will and a trust? Is it a remainder trust, a living trust, a unit trust, a lead trust, or is it just simply beneficiary designation? Younger folks just starting out with no kids might not need a trust. They can simply do beneficiary designation. But as you get older, a trust might be very helpful, especially for elderly parents who are trying to protect assets. So, informed legacy giving. I know this is really hard to see, but up the top, we've got the financial planner, me, the gift planner, our attorney, and the CPA. The sweet spot's right here in the middle, where we all know what you want to do. You may think that we're mind readers. You may think that we know what you want to do or what's the best thing to do, but actually you're the best person to tell us what it is that you want to do and what God's calling you to do. We're going to help you find the best resource. Each one of these folks at the table have an expertise that they bring to this piece of the pie. And that's the sweet spot right there. That's the piece we all want. When we all get together and make sure that we're helping you make the right decisions for what God is calling you to do. So what's in your tackle box? My father, Gary Phelps, was raised Cumberland Presbyterian, but he met my mother in the 1950s, and they fell madly in love. My mother was an orphan. Her parents, my grandparents, were killed during the war in a car accident. So my mother had a brother, Raymond, my uncle. They were separated. My mother went to live with the Bauer side of the family, my grandmother's people, and Raymond went to live with the more wealthy side of the family, the Sparks, because he was a boy. So they had to take care of him. So right then and there, my family had already started to experience what I'm talking about, because my grandparents did not have a will. So the children were kind of fought over. Half the family wanted to keep them together. The other half said, no, we got to take Raymond and take care of him. He's got to go to school, all this kind of stuff. I wasn't there, of course, for that. I was just a glimmer in somebody's eye at that point, but my mother has told me the story many times. But my father, Cumberland Presbyterian, met my mother, who was Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. That's what I was raised before I joined the ELCA. We all have our path to getting to the ELCA. That's a story for another time, but my mother, just know that my mother and her family were devout Lutherans. And when my father met my mother, my grandfather, my mother's father, who was also Lutheran, or my mother's father's father, that's it, he was a Lutheran minister. And he told my father if he was going to court my mother, he had to leave the Cumberland Presbyterian Church and become LCMS. So, my father was an avid fisher after my parents got married. And he would go to Carlisle Lake over in Illinois with my Uncle Pete, his brother-in-law, almost every weekend and go fishing. They were fast friends, my Uncle Pete and my dad. They both worked at the steel mill in Granite City all their lives. My father was an amalgamation of Buddy Hackett and Jerry Lewis slammed into one. So if you got that picture of Buddy Hackett and Jerry Lewis, that was my dad. Where I came from, I have no idea. My dad looked like Buddy Hackett, I kid you not. And he could cut a rug with laughter and comics. I mean, my father was a joker all the way around, but he was an avid fisherman, and he had a tackle box just like this. It did have one other side. Couldn't find a picture of two ones, but it had the kind that, doubled up. So when you opened it up, you had all of the different levels and shelves inside of it where you could put your lures and your hooks and a copy of your will. My father kept it in the tackle box, I kid you not, in a plastic bag. All those years going out to the lake, that's where his will was, with him. Now, why he did that, I still to this day do not know. The way that I found out was in 2008, I was in the midst of a job interview to go to a charity in St. Louis. I was going to become their director of development. And during my interview where I was about to get hired, so this was the lunch interview with the executive director and the chairman of the board, we're sitting there at a restaurant in St. Louis, and my phone just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. Now, I turned it off, should have left it in the car, but it was in my pocket, and they could hear it vibrating. And the executive director says, I think you better answer that. I said, no, it's just my mom. I can call her later. And they said, no, please answer it. Because it just, I even turned it off again, and it just kept ringing. So I excuse myself and I go out, and it's my mother, and she says, I need you to come to Barnes, which is a big hospital in St. Louis. Your father has had a stroke, and I need your help. So I excused myself. I drove to the hospital. Not Barnes, that's later. Over in Granite City, over in Illinois. And so I drove over to Illinois from St. Louis. I get to the emergency room, and there's my dad on a bed with tubes and wires hooked up to him. He was paralyzed on his right side, but he could still talk. And when I walked in there, the first thing he said to me was, I'm glad you're here. Please go to the house and get my tackle box. It's downstairs behind the water heater. And I said, I'm not leaving this. I'm not what do you want with your tackle box? And he's like, go get it. So I went, driving like a maniac. I probably should have gotten pulled over, but I didn't. I found it. Sure enough, I bring it back there, and I'm like, what do you want with this? Open it up. We get through all the stuff. We get it all out. He even had one of those fish hook things on there. Smelled like fish. There was his will. He wanted to complete a designation. He would need my mother's permission because he wanted to make his congregation first beneficiary of a part of his 401k from the mill, because their congregation, they had an old wooden baptismal font that I was baptized in, actually, and it was beautifully ornate wood. At one time, the wood held the water, but it started leaking, and they put a metal bowl in it, but it still leaked. So every time they would have a baptism, they'd have to decoratively put towels down there around it so it wouldn't leak over the church floor. My dad had a plan for a new marble one to be constructed that would not leak, and he wanted to leave the money. Now, my mother could have done this. She could have easily done it, but he wanted to do it, and he had forgotten to do it, and he needed to make that designation, and he needed my mother's permission because it was going to be a first beneficiary, not a secondary. And by the laws, IRAs always go to the surviving spouse first, unless spouse gives approval. So, they signed it and whatnot. The doctors came back in and said that we needed to make some decisions on my father's care and treatment to break up the clot. We had some options. They wanted to give him a drug called TPA, which would break up the clot. But it also had potential terrible side effects. It could cause more bleeding. It could cause another stroke. My father was willing to risk it, roll the dice. He wanted the TPA because he did not want to be a burden to my mother. He kept saying, I don't want to be paralyzed. I don't want to be paralyzed. Give me the drug. Give me the drug. Give me the drug. We also knew that we had to get into a more capable hospital than the one in Granite, so they were going to fly him to Barnes. And so we were waiting on the helicopter. They put the TPA in. They get him all set up. He's just looking so small. And I'm thinking, wow. And so they bundle him up. They put him in a helicopter. We, of course, couldn't ride in it. We had to drive over. There wasn't room for us. So my mom and I are standing in the parking lot. We're watching my dad go away. That was the last time I talked to my father. He had another stroke en route to the hospital. When we got over there, they wouldn't let us come up for the longest time. And then they came down and said, this is what has happened. He's on life support. We waited 30 days, and then we let him go to God. Hardest thing I ever had to do. Also, hardest thing was being executor. But I learned a valuable lesson that day. Always keep your tackle box where you know it's at, because it's going to have in it the tools that we need to do the work of God. I miss my father every day. I sometimes scream at him, why did you do that on that day? Why did you make me go to the house and lose 20 minutes of being with you? Because he wanted something for his church that to this day does not leak and baptizes new children into children of God. What better way to take your money and do something? That's what estate planning is about. That's why I do this. That's why I love my job. It's a mission for me. As a baptized Lutheran, as a called child of God, I now understand from my father's beliefs and my father's actions how important it is for me to have a plan. I hope that you now feel the same way. So a family estate, it could be $100,000, it could be $50,000, it could be $50 million. The amount's really not important. What's important is what we leave behind. What do we want our legacy to be? And what steps are we willing to take right now to make sure that happens? Understanding of family vision, values, and goals. That's one of the desired outcomes of having a plan. Reflection on your resources and your calling. We just talked about that. Options for consultation with other professionals. You know the resources that are out there, the attorney, the CPA, the financial planner, and a gift planner like myself. And clear communication points about your plans. Please write it down. Take the time. Take a Saturday afternoon, grab a cup of coffee, tea, Diet Coke, whatever, a Lutheran lemonade, a beer, whatever it is, glass of wine, sit down, write it down, and let somebody know. Questions? I'll take a pause here. You all have been so quiet and so good. Anybody have any questions or anything else that they want to share or points that I might have missed? I don't claim to know it all. Oh, you are so good. Now I know how pastors feel when they're doing a Q&A sermon. Oh my gosh, I'm dying. I know it's getting late. So I will leave you with this final thought. Start your plan. Contact someone like me. Contact your CPA. Contact your attorney. Contact your financial planner. And make sure that you've got those beneficiary designations on your life insurance, on your 401k, on your 403b, on your checking account at Bank of Kansas. Please make sure you've got those in place. They can be changed tomorrow if you want. But if they're not there now, somebody else is going to make the decision for you, and you're not going to like it. Trust me. Even though you're not here, trust me, I think you're going to know. I know I would. Do it. Make a decision. That is my presentation. So I thank you for your attention. Now, back at the table, like I said, I think I've got about 20 of these. I have plenty of these for everybody. And this is a really good little, this is what the ELCA Foundation has as resources. So if you go across the top, it says charitable gift annuity, charitable remainder trust, annuity trust, donor directed distribution agreement, donor advised funds, named endowment, and outright gifts or bequests. Those are the types of vehicles that we have at the ELCA Foundation to help you make gifts and estate plans and bequests. Down this side is, will it give me an immediate income stream? Will it give me an income in the future? So if there's a green check across the box going down and left to right, it will do that. So it's very helpful. This one here, growing in faith and growing in giving, this is a kind of quick down and dirty, again, of what I have just done in this presentation. So it lists, again, all of the different types of vehicles that we have with a couple of sentences about describing the type of vehicle that it is. And then lastly, this one here is also brand new, and this is our Ministry Growth Fund, which used to be called Fund A, which is our Pooled Endowed Trust. The people that can belong in the Pooled Endowed Trust are congregations like Faith, ELCA-aligned ministries, our synods, Camp Tomashinga, Bethany College. Any ELCA-aligned ministry or congregation can invest in Ministry Growth Fund. We currently manage about $1 billion in assets for the church and its related entities through the Ministry Growth Fund. Unfortunately, individuals cannot invest in this, but we do have vehicles that if you use, we invest in the Ministry Growth Fund. So you're kind of in it, but you're not, so to speak. But your investment is. That's where we choose to put it. Some of our trusts are held at State Street Bank in Chicago. Our CGA pool, our charitable gift annuities, which give you an annuity over life, and then at the end, the remainder goes to charity. Those are also invested. Some of it's in Ministry Growth Fund, some of it's in a different pool. Our donor-advised funds are also in the Ministry Growth Fund. That's where we choose to invest them. We are looking at potentially setting up its own pool of asset class instead of it being in the endowable trust. We all know the markets have been tough the last couple of weeks. Last 2 days have been good. So that's good news. But we can't let the financial ups and downs determine when we do our estate planning. You need to do it. So those are the resources I brought. I'm going to hang around for a while for questions. I know that we don't have dessert until 8:30. Maybe they'll do it a little bit earlier. I don't know if they're saying yes. You guys are done. So I thank you again for your time, and I'm here to answer any questions. God bless you all. Thank you.